Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.
G'day, they're one of the mysteries of our time, one of the great mysteries of our time, in fact, is why so many businesses, and often big businesses, spend so much money on social media platform given what's on those platforms. Now, internationally, Hyundai are the latest to pause their advertising on X after anti-Semitic posts were highlighted and the car company's ads were right next door to them. In Australia, they're busy sorting out legislation at the moment to penalise those platforms for material that should not be anywhere near the public, and yet it is, especially after their knife attacks that involved at least one instance involving a young man allegedly driven by religious hate. Australia are far from the first, and in general the social media platforms, they roll out, at least on the surface, a not unreasonable response most times. Oh, it's not acceptable. Oh, we don't condone it. We monitor these things. We try and stay on top of it, and so it goes, unless of course you're X in this current Australian scrap. And yep, it seems to keep happening, and certainly keeps happening to the point where authorities all over the world now are sick and tired of it and are trying to work out what will bring them into line. It sort of dovetails, if you think about it, into the media levy debate that has raged here of late, whereby many of the same platforms steal news content, put it on their service, wrap advertising around it. So while various governments grapple with the issue, both levy and the posting of shocking material, why is it, let me ask you this, why is it that advertisers advertise in these spaces given the very clear and obvious risks they run? Now, the answer's simple, of course. It's eyeballs. You need to be, they will tell you where the people are. But increasingly, we can ask, surely, can that be a good enough justification? Politicians know better. Biden wants to ban TikTok, and yet he's campaigning on it. Politicians here, I assume, abhor the sentiment peddled on many of these platforms, and yet they post relentlessly knowing there's an audience to be connected with. Advertisers need to ask themselves some pretty basic questions. They appear affected by the whim of the day. I mean, the Me Too movement, the Pride movement, the Green movement. They sway their advertising dollars in the winds of social change. And yet, some of the worst material you will ever see is on social media and on a regular basis. And we know it. And yet they still hand their money over to people who claim to be wanting to clean up their operations and yet never quite achieve it. Explain that logic to me.
The Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.